The 1D&D playtests have certainly had a lot of ups and downs over the last year or so. There's been some great ideas with poor execution, some just straight up bad ideas, and every once in a while we get a beacon of hope, and that's what this playtest document is. While I'm not going to say that the latest playtest 6 is perfect and that it's ready for publication, I do think that it has firmly moved the needle in the right direction for the 2024 version of the game. It does appear that we've moved out of the extremely experimental phase of testing and into more of the refinement phase, much to the detriment of the monk, but I made a whole video about that, so check it out if you haven't already. As I said though, by and large I think the latest Unearthed Arcana is really good and represents a genuine milestone in the development process for the 2024 version of the game. In it, we see the design team walking back some of the more controversial changes proposed in previous UAs, doubling down on others, and making tweaks to the ones that were the right idea but just seemed to fall a little bit short. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the newly revamped 1D&D Bard and why I think this might be the best version of the class that we have seen since 5e began. By the way, if you're enjoying my videos and like what I do, a sub to the channel would be extremely appreciated. It goes a really long way to helping others find my content, and I'm hoping to hit 2,000 by the end of July, so thanks. It seems that Wizards of the Coast has addressed nearly every one of my concerns from my original Bard video, and then some. For Bardic Inspiration, they kept all the good and thankfully moved it back to being a bonus action rather than a reaction. I hated the flavor of it being a reaction, so I'm really happy to see it back in its rightful spot. In addition to that though, they didn't just revert Bardic Inspiration back to its 2014 version. Now, when you inspire someone, they have up to 1 hour to use the inspiration die rather than just 10 minutes, and only need to use it once they know if they failed a roll, not prior to seeing the result, and you're back to having an amount equal to your charisma modifier. This gives nearly all of the benefits that it was while being a reaction while retaining the flavor of the 2014 version. They also removed the ability for inspiration to be used to heal, as they felt that it was causing players to not use their inspiration die for its main intended purpose, but rather hoard it for healing. Overall, I think that this is a fantastic change. I'm a huge fan of you still needing to front load the inspiration die, as I feel that it fits with what the class is trying to accomplish much more. Giving the player up to an hour to use it and then only when they know that the roll has failed is also just such a nice touch. Spellcasting for Bard has received a big change. Firstly, spell preparation is no longer tied to available spell slots, and thank God for that. This is something that I've been complaining about ever since the Expert class's UA, and then for every spellcaster that's been released since, so I am thrilled to see that this change has been reverted. But definitely the bigger change here is that Bards now have the ability to choose their spell list at first level. Bards can now choose whether they want to use the Arcane, Divine, or Primal spell lists, and at 10th level, the updated Magical Secrets feature gives them access to all 3 spell lists. This is just so cool. From a flavor and lore perspective, I can't get enough of it. I don't know if the new Magical Secrets is balanced or not, but I'm going to focus on the positive here. I think it sounds amazingly fun and just turns the customization and flexibility of the class to 11, and that's just awesome. Plus, I'd be surprised if even 20% of players even played at this level anyway. I know that's something I mention fairly frequently, and I want to be clear about something here. I don't think that just because fewer groups actually play from 11th level onward, that it's a good excuse to just explain away bad design. What I do think is that the team can get a little bit more creative with their higher level features. That does not necessarily mean overpowered or broken, but just interesting. And I think that the new Magical Secrets feature accomplishes that goal for me. I'll touch on this a little bit more when I discuss the Words of Creation feature though. Bards still gain expertise twice at 2nd and 9th level, which is the same as the previous UA, but 1 level earlier from the 2014 version of the class. I am totally okay with this. Allowing Bards to dip into additional skills a little bit earlier I think helps underpin the class identity, but I think it's also extra beneficial that it now aligns with the Jack of all trades feature, which is returned to 2nd level from 5th where it was in the previous UA. From a design perspective, I think aligning expertise with Jack of all trades is a great idea that really helps emphasize the cohesiveness of the class. The character gets to double down on one skill while flexing their dabbling in the rest. I love it. Speaking of rests, Song of Rest is gone, and honestly I'm not upset about it. I found the previous UA version of the feature to be very lackluster. Granting a static list of spells didn't exactly feel inspiring to me and kind of pushed the class into one particular direction. As for the subclasses, the level progression from the 2014 version of the class has been restored to help ensure backward compatibility with previous books. This is something that I've touched on in the past in different videos, but I don't really think that this is a great idea. I know that not everyone will agree with this sentiment, but I truly hoped that the team would not let backward compatibility interfere with new design, but it definitely seems that they are. I know that it is fundamentally a numbers and dollars game for them, but I would prefer not having backward compatibility if having it meant limiting what can be done. I've spoken about this at length in my open letter video, so check that out if you want to hear more. Font of Inspiration has moved back to 5th level, and if nothing else, is the design team admitting that the 2014 version of Superior Inspiration was nothing more than a vicious mockery. The new version of Font of Inspiration, like always, allows you to restore all of your inspiration dice on a short rest. This new version, however, allows you to convert a spell slot into one use of Bardic Inspiration as a free action that you can do every turn. As a quick reminder, the 2014 Bard's 20th level capstone, Superior Inspiration, allowed the character when they rolled initiative, and only if they were out of uses of inspiration, to restore exactly one use. This is just so much better that it physically hurts. Yes, you now have the cost of converting a spell slot, but it has the flexibility of not being tied to rolling initiative and can be done without the use of an action. This is just really good. Too good? I don't think so. I like interesting choices that allow the player to choose what is right for them in the moment, and having the flexibility of being able to convert one source of magic into another source of magic just feels right, and honestly, I'm here for it. As an aside, this is a mechanic reminiscent of sorcery points conversion that seems to be appearing a few times in this UA, and while I don't know that it's always appropriate, I think it is a really interesting mechanic that I am loving seeing explored. So with all that said, imagine my surprise when I get to the 18th level feature, Superior Inspiration, and see that it's still there. But don't worry, you now get 2 uses when you roll initiative. This thing just needs to go. Honestly, it's embarrassing at this point. By 18th level, you have access to 20 spell slots. If you can't burn a couple first level slots, if you're desperate for inspiration, I honestly don't even know what to say. Counter Charm has returned and is finally actually worthwhile. The 5e version of Counter Charm existed at best. Honestly, fewer people have probably successfully used the original version of Counter Charm than fought and killed the Tarrasque. Both mechanically and narratively, the feature was a disaster. How do you justify your bard breaking out into song during a scenario when it might actually matter? The new version of Counter Charm has been bumped back from 6th to 7th level, but in exchange for that, it actually becomes usable. Now, if you are a creature within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw against being charmed or frightened, you can now use a reaction to force a reroll, which can be made with advantage. I still kinda wish it had the stipulation that the affected creature would need to be able to hear you, but I'm not that upset about it either. Lastly for the bard, at least it has been given a new capstone which feels worthy of the title, Words of Creation. This lets you have Power Word Heal and Power Word Kill always prepared, and when you cast either, you can target an additional creature for no additional cost, provided the second target is within 10 feet of the first. Additionally, both spells have received a buff. Power Word Heal now has a range of 60 feet rather than touch, and it has dropped the somatic component, and Power Word Kill now still deals damage, 12d12 psychic in fact, even if the target is over 100 hit points, removing the large metagaming aspect from the spell and making it feel useful in many more situations. The new version of these spells are just really cool, and they make them feel much more like 9th level spells than ever before. Words of Creation is also just a really fun feature, but honestly I think my bar was probably a little bit low. I would have been happy with just about anything as long as it was better than Superior Inspiration. I love the big flashy effects that happen in the late game, and we just don't get to see enough of them. My current campaign has been running for just over 3 years now, and my party is at 17th level, and it's such a rush getting to experience all of the insanity that exists so late in the game, so I'm honestly happy to see that the team is willing to allow us to experience more of it if we manage to get to the super late game. Overall, I am really loving this new revision of the Bard. I think it really does a great job embracing the identity of the class, more so than the previous UA, and I think even more so than the 2014 version as well, as controversial as that might be. I'm not saying it's perfect, some tweaks can definitely be made, I'm looking at you, Superior Inspiration, but I feel like this is a great step in the right direction. Side note, the Bard's College of Dance subclass is a better monk than any monk that we've seen so far. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, consider leaving a like and subbing to the channel. I cannot emphasize how much this helps me. Feel free to watch some of my other 1D&D related videos, but otherwise, take care.